Welcome to InTheVortex.Party, your live virtual hot seat podcast for manifestation masters looking to milk reality for everything it's worth. I'm your host, Nick Bro, and I'm here to help you find out where the law of attraction is going wrong so you can get it right. If you'd like to join in our next live call, register at http://InTheVortex.Party. And so we begin. So welcome everybody. The format for tonight's call, we're going to start off with this topic. This week's topic is emotions and the resistance that emotions cause that a lot of people just aren't aware of. And then we're going to move into the Q&A, right? So I call it the virtual hot seat. So you guys can just go ahead and ask questions around, the topic of discussion, or ask questions around, anything else, wherever you guys feel blocked or whatever you guys want to talk about. I'm leaving that up to you guys. And again, as a last reminder, I'd like to ask you guys to keep your microphones muted until we get to the Q&A section. When we get to the Q&A section, if you guys have a question, there should be a little hand icon or a little question icon you can click on. And when you click on that, then I can see who's got their hands up. And then I can prompt you to unmute your mic and move along with your question. So does that sound good for everybody? Yeah. Thumbs up. Hey, Julian, how you doing?
I'm good. I just realized that it's an hour earlier because our clocks have gone on.
Yeah, I had quite a few scheduling boo-boos today because of that.
Yeah.
Can you mute your microphone for me?
Yep.
Thanks. All right, so we're going to get started. So why the topic of emotions? Last week we talked about money, which is the number one thing that most people want to manifest. This week we're talking about emotions because it's the number one missing puzzle piece in most people's law of attraction formula that they're kind of not looking at. So if there's a reason that you're not manifesting something and you've been working on it for a while, there's a good chance that if you've never looked at your emotions, that it's all about the emotion. So that's why we're talking about that tonight. Now, everybody's aware that you've got an attraction point, right? That creates your circumstances. And the two things you need to look at in your attraction point are your thought patterns and your emotions, right? So everybody's kind of at least somewhat aware of their thought patterns, right? But from an emotional standpoint or an emotional point of view, most people aren't aware of the emotions that they're holding, right? That was the topic of my TEDx talk, right? Your inner inbox. You can watch that on nickbro.com. Now, I'm going to start by giving you a couple of examples in terms of how your emotions really are impacting your circumstances. One, this is an example I used in my book, was from a friend who came up to me, this was probably 3 or 4 years ago now, and we were at a restaurant, and he came up to me and he said, Nick, he said, I'm tired, I'm stressed out, I don't feel like getting into bed anymore, do you have any advice for me? And I said, okay, so what's the biggest stress in your life? And for him, like most people, it was his financial situation. And I said, okay, so how does your financial situation make you feel? And his response was, well, my friends are doing all these things that I want to do, but I can't do. So my money makes me feel like I'm powerless. And I said, okay, good. So now go back to your last significant relationship. He kind of gave me a funny look. I said, okay, so what was the worst part about that relationship? And his answer was communication. And I said, okay, so the communication in what way? And he said, well, she always had to have the last word. She would never listen to me. We would only ever do what she wanted to do. We would never do what I wanted to do. She had to win all the arguments, and it was always all about her, and she would never listen to me. And I said, okay, so how does that circumstance make you feel? And again, same response, right? Powerless. So I said, okay, now go back to the relationship before that one. Was powerlessness a theme there? And his answer again was, yeah, it was exact same thing. And I said, go all the way back to childhood. These are what I call dominant negative emotions. And usually they're traced back either to childhood or to traumatic circumstances. So I said, as a child, do you remember powerlessness being a theme? And he said, yeah, absolutely. He said that he was the youngest, I think it was of 4 or 5 kids, and that he always had to follow his older siblings around and do what they wanted to do. And nobody ever wanted to do what he wanted to do. So again, the same theme of powerlessness. So right there in the restaurant, we did a little bit of tapping work, probably for about 15, 20 minutes. We tapped on the emotions of powerlessness and other things that came up. And at the end of the night, he got his bill was paid for. And within the next 3 months, he manifested a new relationship completely different than every other relationship he had ever been in, and he manifested a new job, making more money than he had made before, right? So do you guys see that pattern, right? Because what happens with these emotions is we hold on to them for so long, they become background noise. Kind of like if you're in the kitchen and you turn on the dishwasher, your dishwasher, you're going to hear it for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, but after a minute or two, you don't hear it anymore. And it's not that it's not making noise anymore, but it becomes background noise, right? So it kind of falls outside your awareness. So everybody's walking around with this emotional baggage, but unfortunately, people aren't aware of it and they're not dealing with it. And not only, do you feel better when you deal with it, or do you get closer to your natural state of joy, but it gets out of your attraction point, right? So it stops being that source of resistance, that manifestation blocker. Understand? Second example, this is one of my favorite client examples. It's a little bit more, here we go. So one of my clients came to me because she was having panic attacks at work. So she was off of work for about 6 weeks when she came to me. And we started chatting. And I said, okay, so what happened, or what was going on in your life when the panic attacks started? And for her, she had just begun a new job. And I said, okay, tell me about the new job. She said, you know what? It was a promotion. I loved everything about the job. No complaints except for one little thing. I said, okay, what was that little thing? She said, well, I had to do something that I really didn't want to do, but because I'm in that role, I don't have a choice. And of course, I asked her that same question. So how did that make you feel, right? And her answer was helpless. So I said, okay, so that helplessness. So again, I said, over the last 5 years, have you experienced any traumas? And she thought about it for a second. She said, no, not really. The most traumatic thing was that my 6-year-old had to have surgery. And I was like, okay, tell me about that. She said, well, he was 6 and he had to have a pacemaker put in. She said, but the surgery went fine and he's doing great now and he's perfectly healthy. And I said, okay. And I said, well, when you think about, your son going in for surgery, what comes to mind? What image comes to your mind? And for her, it was the image of her son being rolled out of the ER, still unconscious. And I said, when that image flashes in your mind, what's the emotion that comes up? And again, her answer was that emotion of powerlessness. Or no, sorry, not power, hopelessness, right? Because as a mother of a child, she would feel hopeless because there's nothing she could do for him. So what happened is, her son had the surgery, everything was okay, and that feeling of hopelessness, she never dealt with it, right? The adrenals, everything, so she kind of repressed it, and when she moved into the new role at work, that tiny little bit of helplessness in that new role brought everything up and was triggering the panic attacks, right? We did one tapping session, again, emotional clearing. The panic attacks were gone. She was ready to go back to work. She came back for 2 to 3 more sessions after that. Coincidentally, after we did the remaining of the clearing work, her fibromyalgia, so she had chronic pain every day, which coincidentally started about a month or 2 after the surgery, also completely went away, right? So those are 2 really good examples in terms of how we're hanging on to our emotions, how we're not processing those emotions, and how they're impacting either our attraction point or our physical well-being, right? Or causing panic attacks. Does that make sense? Yeah, pretty straightforward, right? Good. Okay, so how do you identify these things, right? Because it's great that I can sit here and tell you, yeah, you got emotions you don't know that are there. So it's pretty useless if you don't know how to figure out what you've got going on so you can deal with it, right? So the first thing to do is look for those patterns, right? Look at past relationships, look at career situations, look at the unwanted situations in your life, right? And see if they keep bringing up the same emotions, right? Look at the situations and ask, how does this situation make me feel? So if you've got the same emotions coming up over and over again in all these circumstances, odds are you've got a dominant negative emotion in your attraction point, right? Another way is through looking at physical symptoms, right? Oftentimes physical symptoms are rooted in emotions. Most people are familiar with Louise Hay's Heal Your Body. The one I like is by Everett Rose. Here's what it looks like. It's called Metaphysical Anatomy, right? Highly recommended. It's got about 700 different illnesses, and it's very specific. So I would say it's on target on average with at least 95% of my clients. Very rarely is there not a match in terms of the emotions, the physical symptom, and what's being described in this book. And third, another way to detect what emotion you might have in your attraction point is to look at what desires you want and identify the way those desires would make you feel. So for example, if you're looking to manifest money, right? If you had the money you wanted, how would you feel, right? If your first answer is free or freedom, that means you're vibrating at the opposite of freedom, which is stuck, right? And you need to either work on clearing that emotion of stuckness, right? And or work on feeling the emotion of freedom, right? Does that make sense? So those are 3 easy ways you can start looking into how to identify what you've got on in your attraction point. There's a lot more techniques and more digging questions. Usually in my sessions with clients, we spend a good half hour, 45 minutes just on the digging work alone, right? Because that lets us know exactly what you've got going on so we can pinpoint exactly what you need to do in order to deal with those emotions and see that shift you're looking for. Does that make sense? Okay, so last but not least, how do you clear this stuff, right? So again, my tool of choice is EFT, right? There's dozens of ways to clear emotions, everything from journaling to yin yoga to meditation to seeing a psychologist, right? I'm formally trained in about a dozen different modalities, right? Hypnotherapy, timeline therapy, theta healing, Reiki access, a whole whack of stuff. But the only thing I ever really need to use now is the tapping, is the EFT. Because the root cause of all this resistance is the emotions, right? It's the emotions or the beliefs, right? The beliefs you deal with in a different way. Usually it's momentum work. And then you tackle the emotions. And the emotions, again, it's the EFT. That's where the EFT shines, because what you're doing is you're tapping on the tapping points. You're allowing yourself to feel the emotions, which is the natural way to release an emotion, right? How do you process emotions? You allow yourself to feel them. That's what EFT is all about. The theory behind EFT is you're tapping on major meridian endpoints and you're using the right statements to loosen up the energy of the emotions in your meridians to let them out. My belief is that it doesn't really matter where you tap, that the process of tapping just keeps part of your conscious mind busy so that it's easier to feel the emotions when you're using those statements. And by feeling those emotions, you're letting that stuff go, right? Does that make any sense? I'd love to do some group tapping with like all of you right now, but that would be very unprofessional because you could just trigger a bunch of people all at once. Usually when I do group tapping, I do a max of like 10 to 12 people and make sure that I have like an emotional helper with me. But I might start planning like mini group tapping sessions with like 5 or 6 people at a time. So if that interests you guys, just post in the Facebook group and let me know, and we'll look into organizing that. So that's all that I've got to share with you guys tonight. And it's just the foundational aspects around emotions and how they impact law of attraction. So let's just jump into the Q&A bit. Again, you can ask questions about what I just talked about, ask questions about maybe what we talked about last week or whatever you have going on, and we'll just see where the energy of the group takes us. Sound good? So you guys, if anybody has any questions, just click on the little hand signal somewhere's on your screen. Hopefully somebody has questions. You guys were so active last week. You guys seem quiet this week.
The hand's not showing for me, Nick. It's Andrea.
Oh, it's not?
No, for some reason today it's not showing.
Okay. So if you guys have a question, just wave your hand frantically. And if I don't see you, post in the group chat board. There's like a chat button. Just post that you have a question. And then I'll see your name come up and then I'll ask you your question. Okay, so you go ahead, Andrea.
Okay, so I did put a question in and then you kind of touched on it. I was saying, if it wouldn't be too much, do you think on one of the calls we could do maybe a round of tapping?
Yeah.
I might, and then I said you could trigger me anytime, Nick. I'd totally be fine with that in a group situation.
Yeah.
So,
it's not so much the issue of triggering somebody. The issue is more if I trigger 4 people all at the same time, then I can't, give each 4 of those people my attention all at the same time.
Okay, I hear you.
When it's a smaller group where if there's emotional helpers with me and available, which happens in person, that's okay. But to tap with a large group wouldn't be the best idea in the world.
Okay, all right.
But
that was one of my 1 questions. I shall have others. I'm gonna mute myself now.
Sure, but if the interest is there, I could start organizing that.
Yes.
It'd be interesting to see what dominant negative emotions most people think they have. So just for fun, everybody think of like one desire. So let's say the desire that you want most. Maybe it's money, relationship, something else, health. And how would you feel? So think about how would you feel if you had that desire? Okay. And think of the opposite of that emotion, right? So if you would feel free, then the opposite is stuck. If you would feel powerful, the opposite would be powerless. Or think of the emotion that comes up when you think of the lack of that desire. So how does not having any money make you feel? How does being single make you feel? How does being stuck with a boss that treats you like a jerk make you feel? So everybody come up with one emotion. You guys got one? And then type the emotion in the group chat window. So let's see how many of you guys have the same emotion come up. If you guys don't mind, if you're brave enough to share. So peace of mind. So anger, stuck, powerless, stuck, powerless, stuck, anger, lack of confidence, stuck. And my guess is most people who are typing stuck, it relates to money. So frustration, not stuck but close, lack of choice. So lack of choice is similar to powerlessness, unworthy. I'm just going to scroll up through these again just to see. So I would say dominant would probably be for the group, powerless, stuck, and anger/frustration. Does that make sense to you guys? So maybe if I do run like a small group tapping evening, then the focus would probably be on powerlessness and stuck. So maybe we can chat about that in the Facebook group and see what would work for that. So any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Ainsley.
Hi, guys. Mine was more just to share what I did on the weekend and how it can help everyone.
Yeah, Ainsley and I did a bit of tapping at the end of last week. So maybe you can share your experience with tapping.
So one of the biggest things, like contrast has been coming up, different things. Like I'm in this hostel at the moment and it's really tested me. But I've been able to recover a lot quicker just with the emotional stuff. But I found that in regards to the money, I'm not as anxious anymore. I'm, and I'm still tapping as it comes up every day. But I'm not so like, when's the next lot coming? I hope it's going to come soon. I'm sort of, I feel kind of, like bridged? It's hard to say. But like, it doesn't feel like there's a gap anymore. I don't know. Yeah. Does that make sense?
You feel kind of more stable or less triggered?
Yeah.
And were you surprised about how much of a difference the EFT made?
I was. Like it does. It feels more of like a stable feeling and a more secure feeling. Like I made a sale today and that was really awesome and I was really stoked. But then I thought, let's just not apply too much emotion either way to whether you get paid or you don't. And so I'm teaching myself that even if there's money in the bank, just, it's great to feel elation and excited and grateful for it. Yeah. But it's important to get to that state of mind where money, whether it's in or it's out, it's a non-issue. It's like, it's there. It doesn't matter. And so that's sort of where I've been at.
And I would milk that good feeling and that excitement and that, notice that, oh yeah, I made a sale, right? Milk it, journal about it, feel it, right? Because that's just going to create more of that energy.
Yeah.
No, good. And when Ainsley and I tapped, something that came up at the starting is she explained how she was tapping along with the video that she saw online. And the guy that was tapping online wasn't doing EFT the way it should be done. Not at all. So if you're tapping with somebody, or if you're tapping with a video, make sure that you're tapping with somebody that you know is well trained, and that you trust, right? I mean, use your inner guidance, but because conceptually from the outside looking in, EFT looks very simple. A lot of people just say, okay, well, I'm just going to start tapping myself and saying statements, and I'm going to call that EFT, right? And unfortunately, it's not that easy. So just be a little bit vigilant in terms of who you're tapping along with and who you're following online. Anything else, Ainsley? Is that good for you? You good? Okay, any other questions? Anybody else? Let's see any hands. Oh, I'm seeing some what about blockages? Like when you want to feel emotions like desire, but you just see a black/void. What organization did you train with, Nick? So I train with AMET. AMET is the biggest EFT organization in the world. I think there's a British group and an American group of tappers. The American group is more like a Nick Ortner style. And the British group, I think it's pretty much the same thing, just a bit of different wording. So Katie, can you unmute your mic? Are you there? Just want to get a little bit more clarity on your question about blockages. No, can you unmute? No? Okay, if you could elaborate a little bit in the chat window more about your question about blockages, about seeing like a black void, and then I'll come back to it. So anybody else have a question? Oh, I see a lower hand, upper hand. Susan. So the hand icon must be there somewhere.
I'm here.
Oh, Katie's there. Okay, we'll answer Katie's question and we'll come back to you, Susan. So Katie, can you elaborate on your question a little bit about blockages?
Yeah, so like a blockage to have desire, like sexual intimacy, for example, but it's just like not there.
So
yeah.
So oftentimes if the desire or the excitement for things aren't there, it can be around safety, so it's not safe to have that desire, right? So okay. If you ask that question, you know, if I were to be excited about that desire, right, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Right. So
try asking yourself that question. And often the answers are often things such as, well, it might not come true and I would be disappointed again.
Okay.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so usually it's around safety. So try asking some of those questions and the answer might pop up. And if it doesn't, send me a message and I can help you figure it out.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, go ahead, Susan.
Hi there.
Hi.
Yeah, for me, when I'm, so I get up in the morning, I'm really excited about some of the possibilities of not of my day, but of my future. You know, there's this business that I want to work on setting up, and I'm excited about it. Now and again, I get a little nugget about it, a little bit of insight, a little connection, but day to day, I'm not doing that. But I seem to also be able to get excited about doing some stuff. At work, I do a lot of presentations, and it's been a block for me. But lately, when I'm not actually working on the presentation, I'm getting up in the morning, I'm going for a walk, I get excited about doing the presentation because, wow, if I can do this, I can do anything, because I don't, you know, it's been something that I've been blocked, and now, wow, it's going to be great when I work on this and have success, because if I can do that, I can do anything, sort of thing. But when I'm actually in the presentation mode, I don't have that same emotion. And then at the end of, let's say I'm working on a presentation for a couple hours and it didn't go the way I wanted it to go, you know, and I'm having a different emotion, you know, emotion of, it's not quite working out. Like, to me, I have such a range, you know, when I'm not actually doing the task, I have such positive emotions. But when I'm doing the task and if it doesn't work out, you know, it's negative. So yeah. That's the emotion I guess I should be trying to figure out.
So for you, so I think what's going for you, so let me see if I understand this correctly. So in the morning, you're feeling good, you're excited about your presentation, you know, you're up here emotionally, and then at some point, just before or during the presentation, your excitement level drops.
It's when I'm actually doing the work, I don't have the same level of excitement mostly. So, you know, thinking about doing the work, yay, it's going to be great. And then actually doing the work, doing the work.
Is it possible you're just not enjoying the work?
It's possible, but this is what I've decided. And maybe this is wrong, maybe this is right, but I thought this was a really good thing. I've been struggling with this for a while, but it's the job that I have. I make really good money. It allows for a lot of things, so I consider it a real positive. But for some reason, doing a presentation, which isn't technically difficult, I just don't go through them very quick. So I'm not necessarily enjoying the work.
Yeah.
However, I want that. I want the money, and I want to figure out how to enjoy that work. And I feel like I'm on the edge where I can. And if I can enjoy this work, then I can enjoy any work.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to shift whether you enjoy something or not, right? I guess for you, it's maybe about figuring out what aspect of the presentation that you don't like. So, for example, if the aspect of the presentations might be that you're afraid that people are going to judge you, you think you're doing a bad job. So I would check in and see if the presentations is the aspect of your work that you don't like. I would do some digging in to try to figure out why that is.
Right. Got it. Okay.
And, you know, maybe there's emotions there around insecurities about giving presentations, you know, and stuff like that you can work on and clear, right? Which might make the presentation more enjoyable. But if you're doing presentations about, you know, something really lame that doesn't interest you, then it could just be that it's something that doesn't interest you as well. And if that was the case, I would start doing some intent setting to shift your career, shift your position, so that you're still doing something that you love. You still have that same stability and safety of a salary, but you're doing something that's a little bit more aligned with you.
Got it. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Thank you. It does. Thanks.
Okay. Go ahead, Barb.
Great, thank you. So one of the things I've discovered is that, so I act as a coach, and I love the coaching piece on it, and I love it when they come organically to me. Yeah. What I have more difficulty with is asking for the sale. And I think that there are elements of rejection and fear that are attached to that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
how to deal with that?
Please.
Yeah, start clearing.
Okay.
So if you were a client of mine, the first thing we would dive into is start tapping on that feel. So if you were to pitch to a client and they said no, what would be the worst thing about that?
Well, I would feel rejected.
Okay, so that's the emotion.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just that simple.
So that's the one I need to work with, and you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. Start with the feeling of rejection. Once you clear the rejection, other feelings might come up, right? Like I'm not good enough, right? People are judging me. But the good thing about that is they're very straightforward emotions to start working on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, sure. Perfect. I'll work on those. Thank you.
And the other thing I tell coaches too is to trust in the work that you do with your clients. So let's say you're a psychic reader and you're giving psychic readings. Even if the reading is off target, if the universe aligned that meeting between you and that person, it's still what that person needed to hear, right? So always have faith and always trust in the work that you're doing, regardless of what the outcome is with your clients. That make sense? Good. Okay, go ahead, Andrea.
Okay, so might be more than one question. I'm not sure. Well, yeah, I am sure. So it is more than one question. First of all, when you were bringing up about the guy on YouTube and doing the tapping, how do we know that they're not doing it correctly?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard on a case-by-case basis, right? The biggest thing to know about EFT is make sure you're calling out the emotion, right? So here's what it should look like. So you do a setup statement on the hand. Sometimes you can skip the hand. It's called the karate chop pointer of the setup. And you always start with an emotion. So let's say we're tapping on anger. You would say something like, you would rank it on a 0 to 10 scale. 0 being that it's gone, 10 being that it can't get any higher. And then you just kind of start tapping. So here's where we do the setup. So you'd say something like, even though I feel really angry and I can feel it in my chest because my boss won't listen to me, because my dog peed on the floor, because my girlfriend ate all my chocolate, and even though I feel really angry, I still fully and completely love and accept myself. So that's where you do the setup. Normally you do 3 of these setup statements, and then you move on to the other points. With the other points, you're doing what I call calling out the emotion, right? And that's what kind of confuses people, is you're not saying stuff to feel good, you're saying stuff to literally call out the feeling. So you'd say stuff like, that angry feeling in my chest, my boss is such a jerk, my car keeps breaking down, my boss just won't listen to me, my chocolate's all gone, I feel so angry, right? That angry feeling in my stomach, I'm so angry, right? And that's how, and then usually here you do kind of like take a deep breath, you do a shift check, you see if the number's shifting, you see if other numbers are coming up or other emotions, you shift to those. So you kind of just follow that flow. So that's what tapping should look like, okay? Now, if somebody's doing something different, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, right? Use your intuition and use your judgment call and see what kind of results you get.
Excellent. So thank you. So then my second question to you, and I might even have a third, but I'll keep it simple. Do you, Nick, on YouTube, are there any of your tapping videos?
I've got tapping videos in Shift Club, which is the support program for the book. And there's a fee for that. I think it's $200 or $150 for the year.
Will you put the info in our Facebook group?
Sure, yeah, I can post that there for sure.
With the link. Okay, so then my third question is, says I too am a coach, like Barbara,
yeah.
And I'm really starting to sense that starting my day off with tapping specifically designed for that day, for the organicity of bringing on clients and all of that part of my business could be hugely beneficial, yes?
I don't know if I would start tapping in the morning. So your morning practice is designed to feel good, right?
Right.
So that's one purpose, is get you up on the vibrational scale, get you in alignment, and then spend your day there, right? Tapping is designed to clear the emotions. If you're properly tapping, you should fully clear the emotion and it should be gone. So what that means is, if you've got this worry about, I don't know, if you've been holding anger for the last 10 years, because 10 years ago your boss fired you for no reason, by tapping, it should fully clear. If you're doing it, get it down to a 0, and then the next morning when you wake up, you shouldn't have to deal with it anymore. Now, it doesn't mean you're never going to be angry again, because if somebody throws a rock through the windshield of your car, then it's normal to be angry. But what you're doing with the tapping is you're clearing it. Right? You're clearing the contents of your bag. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I'm really glad that I asked that question then about tapping and tapping in the morning, because...
Yeah, I mean, ultimately clearing stuff is going to raise your vibration, but every morning you don't want to wake up and go, okay, what negative crap do I have to deal with today, and then start tapping it.
So then tapping is different than Esther, than Abraham encouraging us to do focus wheels, of where we're starting with that negative and then we move it into the positive. So then
it still has the same positive impact. So if you're trying to move from stuck to free, right? Because every emotion, there's 2 ends of the stick, like Abraham. Right. So if you're trying to move from stuck to free, focus wheels and positive aspect lists are going to help, right? Because if you spend more time in free, you're going to manifest money. If you spend more time in stuck, you're not going to manifest money, right? So doing focus wheels and positive aspect lists around freedom are going to get you here. But 15 minutes after you're done the exercise, if you go back to thinking about what you don't have, you're going to go right back here, right?
So that's then where the tapping comes to just bring it up and get it out.
Exactly. When it comes to Abraham Hicks, everybody thinks, oh, I just got to think positive. I just got to think positive. I just got to think positive. And they want to be up here, but they're here. And the thinking positive is brute forcing your way up, which is good, but your cork should float naturally. And the reason it's not floating naturally is because of the emotions. And by clearing the emotions, then it gets that much easier to get up here. So that's why doing both the momentum work and the clearing is so important.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nick.
Okay, go ahead, Megan.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the kind of the negative emotions and thought patterns that you were talking about. And once you kind of get into, like, my biggest issue is getting into a negative kind of tailspin and how to, in that moment, get out of it.
Yeah, so Abraham's suggestion is take a nap, right? So
well, the problem is when you can't.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I would certainly love to stop and tap or love to take a nap but like when you're really in a really difficult situation with someone else or
I've got
stop.
One of my meditations, it's called the Just Be meditation. And it's a 6-minute meditation designed specifically for that, to just get you to just be and chill out. So I'll post the link to that in the Facebook group.
Okay.
So give that a try. A lot of my clients use it at work. But again, Abraham would say you want to get out ahead of it, right? So the key is not letting that happen in the first place.
Right.
You do that by, creating the positive momentum as early as you can in the day, and then working on not allowing wobble to create that downward spiral. And it can take practice for sure.
Right.
Yeah. But if you've got a certain circumstance that keeps coming up over and over and over again, that's creating that downward spiral, that's where you want to look at the emotions that are attracting that circumstance and do some clearing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I wish it was easier than that for you.
Right. I know.
Any other questions? No? Okay, go ahead. I don't know who had their hand up first. Go ahead, Julianne, and then Carolyn. Go ahead, Julianne.
Hey. I was just wondering about, tapping on, if it's a dominant core emotion, do you go back then and sort of think of these sort of traumatic things in your life or something? Do you have to tap each event or?
It can help. So you don't have to go back to every event. You don't have to go back to the events at all, right? Mm-hmm. So as long as you're aware of the emotion, you don't even have to be able to label it. So if you've got like this uncomfortable feeling in my stomach, you can just tap that uncomfortable feeling in my stomach. I feel so uncomfortable. You can just stay general like that. But I find sometimes being specific and going to trigger events help the person tune into the emotion so much easier.
Mm-hmm. So the idea is to sort of trigger the emotion so that you feel it, so that it discharges.
Exactly. Very well said. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. And I was just kind of curious, actually, like whenever you came across EFT, did you go back and kind of tap on a lot of things in your history? How long did it take for you to kind of feel like you'd cleared?
Everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
So different people clear energy. Some people clear really fast. Some people hold on to their energy a little bit tighter. Mm-hmm. So everybody's different. EFT has a process called the personal peace procedure, where you go right back as early as you can remember, and you write down every circumstance that you experience that still brings up negative emotion for you. Mm-hmm. So you write down all the circumstances from birth right up till today, and then you assign next to every circumstance, you give it a number. So how big the charge is, 0 to 10. Mm-hmm. And then you can start working through them. So you start tapping them. And what will happen is, if you clear out, let's say in grade 6, you were, in a fight with a bully and you got beat up. And let's say that's got a really high emotional trigger and it brings up anger. And then above that, you've got 15 other events that all have anger associated. But when you go back and tap that one down, you'll notice that the emotional charge for the other circumstances go away as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't have to go back and tap every circumstance. It's almost kind of like playing Jenga or reverse Jenga, where you want the tower to fall over. And by pulling out in the right spots, the whole problem kind of has a tendency to go away.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, cool. So, would you have any idea, like how long, I guess as long as a piece of string, like how long that process takes?
Everybody's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've had people clear lifelong anxiety in like 2 tapping sessions, right? And I've had people take 10 or 12 sessions before they really get at certain things.
Yeah.
So there's safety involved too, right? So if you're scared of your emotions, if you grew up being very disconnected from your emotions, it's going to be a lot harder to tap stuff out, right? Or if you look at something like depression, clearing the sadness isn't always the hard part. Usually it's clearing all the issues around why the person doesn't feel safe letting the sadness go. Right? So again, it's very conceptually simple looking outside in, but you have to look at all the angles, right? I want to hold on to this sadness because if I let it go, then that person no longer becomes responsible for the way I'm living my life. For me, it feels safer to hold on to sadness than to forgive that person. Right? So you have to tap around those circumstances before you can get to the sadness.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I also just was wondering, what like is your maintenance routine? Like, what do you do it in the evening, or like, do you do it if something annoys you during the day? Do you do it immediately, or?
I tap if something comes up, honestly. But I don't need to tap a whole lot for myself anymore, mainly because I spend my days tapping with clients. So I get to borrow from those benefits. So for me, the big thing is making sure I feel good in the morning. And my biggest challenge is just being, right? Getting into receiving mode. And, puzzles are great for that. Meditation, doing stuff that bring me into the present and get me focusing off of business and other things.
Cool. Okay.
Good questions. Thanks. Go ahead, Carolyn.
All right. Hi, guys. So my question is, what's your advice basically from your own money journey? So basically, not thinking about money, being in the present moment seems to be not a problem at all, and the money does flow. But the moment I go to spend money, even if it's like $2 to $100, I'm instantly triggered all the way back down.
Okay, so the first thing is don't spend money unless you have to. But of course you can't spend money. I mean, the hard part, again, last week was all about money. And the hard part with money, again, is it's always in our face, right? Every time you're noticing money going out, then you're focused on that, right? So the bigger part of the work is stop focusing on money going out and spend a hell of a lot of time focusing on what's coming in, right? One of the Abe Hicks suggested exercises that's really good is like put $200 in cash in your wallet and walk around the mall saying, oh, I can buy that. I can buy that. I could buy that if I wanted to right now. So it's kind of like you want to work on overpowering that feeling of money going out with money coming in. Does that make sense? For me, my big shift happened when I came to the conclusion and realization that I didn't need the money. So for those of you who don't know, I was part of a company that was acquired for $330 million. And that acquisition happened about, I would say, 6 months after I really started applying some of this stuff. And about 6 months after, I looked at my current financial situation and said, you know what? I'm living a pretty damn good life. I've got a beautiful house. I can pay my bills. There's people who don't have homes. They don't have enough money to buy food. And that things are really okay with me, right? And once I had that feeling of, you know what, things really are okay, and felt my body relax into that, then it was like a letting go of, I don't really need it, right? And then that's kind of when it showed up, right? So I would say a big thing, and I see it with people all across the board, right? I've got clients who are, one of my clients now is working on these billion-dollar portfolios, right, for investors. And like, he's got tons of cash, but he still feels like he doesn't have enough, right? Because his eyes are now set on billions, right? So wherever you're at, you can always have that mindset of I don't have enough, or that mindset of I've got plenty and I'm happy with that, right? And which of the two do you think is going to manifest money, right? The mindset I've got plenty and I'm happy with that, and I'm appreciative of that. And the more you can be in that energy, the more it's going to show up, right? For those of you who were on our last call, my big focus for the last 3-4 weeks has been getting in that really state of letting go and receiving, right? And 2 weeks ago, I spent that whole week traveling. So chilling, doing a couple of speaking engagements. And I spent this whole past week, so 2 weeks ago was traveling, I was totally chill. This past week, I spent most of my time working on this giant puzzle and doing things that totally just kept me in the now and kept me in the present and receiving mode. And I made close to 5 figures in just 2 weeks, right? And I did absolutely nothing to bring in any of those clients or any of that work. All I did was travel and chill, right? Abraham brings this up again and again. We're over-efforting too much. We're trying too much. When you're trying to manifest something like money, your mind is set to, I don't have enough money, right? When you're set to, I don't have enough money, that's what you keep recreating, right? So the best thing you can do is get off the topics, right? Go buy a big 3,000 piece puzzle, right? Make sense?
Mm-hmm. And in terms of, so the balance between spending the money and not spending the money?
So for you, if spending money like buying a pack of gum or whatever really creates a lot of wobble that you can feel it pull you down on the scale, what I would do is some tapping around, if I lost all my money, what's the worst thing that could happen? Right? So, maybe what would come to mind is, oh, well, I would have to go back and live with my parents. Or I would have to explain or justify to my parents why I don't have enough money, right? And see what emotions come up there. Or it might be, well, this fear of, well, I'll be out on the street, right? And tapping around those fears. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you'd say in terms of the negative emotion, I'm just trying to get a feel like for myself, is it more beneficial to, for example, let's say I wanted to buy a bigger ticket item that brought me joy.
Okay.
But the negativity was so strong. Would you say it's more beneficial to just not buy that item or just go for it anyway?
If buying the item makes you feel really good, even afterwards, then I would say use your inner judgment. Right? So if it's like an impulse buy, you buy it, then you feel like crap, then that's going to be bad for your momentum, obviously, right? But if it's this, hell yes, I have to have this, I can't not have this, and then after buying it, if you can keep focusing on the appreciation for having that and stay off the topic of lack, then I would say it would be okay.
Okay.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, you want this continuous flow of money, because if you're in a place where you're not spending money, then you're still in a place where you're focused on lack.
Right.
Right? So it's a very delicate balance. And the reason money is the hardest thing to manifest for people is because of this delicate balance and because it's always in our face.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Does that help?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You and I can chat about that more on another call too.
Sure.
Awesome.
Thanks.
It's good questions for sure. Anything else?
No, I don't think so. That's it.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Hi, Nick. Okay. First, I'd like to say I'm really appreciative of my friend Andrea that told me about this call tonight. It was perfect timing, as everything always is. I am a six-figure coach who has yet to start his business.
Okay.
Although I have been coaching for years and have never charged anyone, and have watched as people that I've coached have well surpassed me in income.
Okay.
And this year, I've sort of dealt with why I've never charged anyone, why I've never wanted to charge anyone. The issues around worthiness and, oh, you should give this stuff away, this is spiritual, blah, blah, blah. So over this last half year, coming to terms with realizing that, well, this is work that I truly am passionate about, that it would be a good thing to make money. To support myself doing this stuff so that I'm not out there working for someone else and doing this stuff in my spare time. And yet there's something stuck there that keeps me from launching.
From launching?
Yes.
Okay.
So
it's not that clients,
help with that.
so it's not that clients aren't showing up. It's just that you haven't stepped forward and put yourself out there.
Well, here's the thing. It's interesting. I'm always attracting people. last week someone through Facebook started asking me questions, and I sort of got the inkling. This is someone that in the past that I would have coached for free.
Yeah.
And I stopped myself from giving the free coaching as I normally would have.
Yeah.
I said, well, this would be my fee. This is what it would include. And of course, because that person wasn't in that vibration, they didn't respond. They were really wanting the free advice. So it's not that I don't attract people.
Yep.
However, attracting the people who are ready to value what I'm giving them,
Absolutely.
to pay what I'm asking.
Yeah. So
Another thing.
the most important thing for you is you need to feel the value. So you might understand it at a conscious level, right? But you really need to feel the value of what you're providing, right? So that's kind of the first big step. So do you have a day job?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And I'm assuming your day job provides you with some form of at least financial security somewhat.
Yes.
It pays your bills. You can live comfortably. You can feed yourself.
Yes.
Okay. And if you could coach full time rather than the day job, would you do that?
Oh God, yes.
Okay. And if you could make, so are you working a 9 to 5?
No, I'm working at 11 to 7. I work overnight.
Okay. Well, so let's, for the sake of this, let's pretend it's a 9 to 5. Okay. So that 9 to 5 that you spend, would you rather spend that doing the coaching work?
Yes.
And if you had enough clients to fill in a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, would you do that?
Oh, it would be bye-bye real quick.
And would you do it for free?
No. At this point in my life, absolutely not.
Because you have to support yourself.
Yes.
So does it make sense that you would have to charge people in order to support yourself to provide your service?
Say that again?
Would it make sense that you would need to charge people to support yourself to provide that service?
Yes.
And how would that feel?
To charge people?
To charge people for your time because it's taking time from your normal job.
That would feel like what I should be doing about now in my life.
And does that feel good?
Yeah.
So if you were to pretend that for every hour of coaching you do takes an hour away from your current day job, would you charge?
Yes.
Okay, so can you sit with that mindset for a while? Does that help increase and feel the real value of what you're providing?
I think I just got why I'm not doing it.
Okay.
Feels like I don't know enough. There's something I feel like I should know that I don't know.
Okay. Can you share, what's the topic of your coaching business? Do you have is it a specific topic?
I love coaching people into the vibration of what they want.
Okay. So
I used to say it was easier doing that for other people than it is for myself. I've changed that to saying, no, it's just as easy to do it for myself as it is for other people. However, on this one, I'm having difficulty.
So there's 7 billion people on the planet, correct?
That's what they tell me.
And so vibrationally on that topic and your understanding of that topic, of the 7 billion people on the planet, you're probably maybe about here.
Okay.
Above average, obviously, because you study that topic and you help people, correct?
Right.
You agree that there's always going to be people above you on that topic and always people below you on that topic?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. And can you trust that the universe, if you set your intent to bring people under you that you can help, that it would do that?
Huh, good question. Well, some reluctance to say yes.
Okay, and how does that feel? And does that ease up a little bit of your resistance towards putting yourself out there?
That makes me feel sad, actually.
Okay. I'll hopefully not too sad, but I'm going to let you sit with that for a bit. Because I think we just opened up a whole bag of trail that could go on for a little while here. So process that for a bit, and then if you have any more questions, pipe up again in a little bit or ask in the Facebook group later tonight.
Okay.
Does that sound good? Anything else you want to add or ask?
Add us to the face, because I'm not in the Facebook group. So.
Okay, you should have gotten, did you sign up on the website, InTheVortex.Party?
Yes.
Okay, so you should get an email with the link to the Facebook group on there.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect?
Okay.
Good question.
Okay, so then it's about what am I trusting?
Yeah. So can you trust that the universe is going to bring you the perfect clients? Right. And if I were you, I would do an intent setting exercise. You know how people do a list of what they want in a partner?
Mm-hmm.
Do the same thing for your clients, for the clients you want to attract.
It's so funny that you say that because I have been doing that exercise with different things in my life. And it started out with wanting to do that for who my perfect client is.
Yep.
And I have resisted doing that one.
Okay. So no better time than now.
Yes. Very true.
Awesome. Good discussion. Thank you. Go ahead, Andrea.
Okay, just a quick question. So last week, Nick, we talked about, creating the new morning process of our routine.
Yeah.
So now it's gotten me to thinking about the whole implementing the tapping. So when would you suggest, if you could, what would be a good time of day? Would it be like before we go to bed to do the tapping and do clearing?
Time of day doesn't really matter.
Okay.
So just make sure that you're not confusing and mixing the tapping with your morning practice, because those are two completely separate and distinct things.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and you don't want to spend hours and hours tapping every night. You shouldn't have to, right?
Right, okay.
Tapping, you should be fully clearing stuff out.
Okay. All right. I got to start tapping.
You and the rest of the planet. Go ahead, Stacey.
Well, I'm going to private message you, Nick.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Stacey.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I did type this in the chat, but just in case you missed it, is there enough on, what are the sentences you just said about focusing on just being? Is there enough in that topic for that to be one of your discussions coming up?
Absolutely. I'll make that the topic for next week's call.
Okay. Thank you.
That's, for me, one thing I always pay attention to is I see my pockets going through, or my clients going through pockets of kind of topics on where they struggle and what they need. And right now, a big theme, and it was brought up by Abraham in Boston, is the topic of stop efforting so much and just being. And that's really been my focus the last about 3 weeks, and it's super paid off for me. Right? So yeah, we'll totally look at that topic next week.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
I can't recommend puzzles enough. I'm going to start calling it like puzzle meditation or something, because it really leaves you with your thoughts when you're actively focused on doing a puzzle. What I've been doing again is setting a timer and checking in, well, where are my thoughts now whenever the timer goes off, and trying to keep myself grounded and centered.
I guess that would be the same with like the adult coloring books and
exactly
that. Okay.
Yeah, but so yeah, great topic suggestion for next week. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay. So we got about another 10 or 15 minutes left. Go ahead, Megan.
I have a really quick follow-up on the money thing.
Yeah.
When you had said that once you got to the point of saying in your life that you had a nice house and, you could pay your bills and everything was good and kind of relaxed with everything, that's when the money finally came?
Yeah, like for me, my goal out of university was get my computer science degree, be part of a startup, and retire by 30. Right? So the acquisition happened, when I was 33, and I didn't quite have enough to retire, enough to, move away from that world and into this world, which is my passion. But really, it was this realization that, there's a lot of people who are struggling. I might not be where I want to be, but I've got a steady job. I'll probably keep having a steady job. I can feed my kids, and I've got everything I really need to make me happy.
And that's when things, when you relaxed about it, things finally came then.
Exactly. And that's exactly what Stacy was asking about for next week's call, is really learning to just be, right? And to let go.
Right.
Most of my hot seat conversations with Abraham were just about letting go. And her response is almost always to learn that we attract and we earn through our vibration and not through the efforting and the action.
So my question was going to be, was that really true for you, that you were, content and happy? Like, you maybe weren't exactly where you wanted to be at that point in your life, but it was true. Well, what if you are 6 figures in debt? Or, like, I can certainly say, okay, I'm happy. I would like to be further along. I'm not broke. I'm not, I can feed myself or whatever, but I have serious debt, or I have, my house is underwater or whatever, I
mean, there's always going to be.
How do you relax? How do you let it go when you do have an ulcer about money?
I mean, it's always a mindset thing, right? So there's always going to be a level up where you want to be at.
Right.
And there's always going to be a level below where we are now. Right. So
right.
It's about really efforting and focusing on.
So how do you effort and relax?
So kind of vibrationally. So when I say effort,
right,
the effort we don't want is the action taking and the constant spinning of the head to try to solve a problem or to try to make things happen.
Yeah.
So the relaxing that we want is really falling into a place where, that feeling you have when you're on vacation where you don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
That's the feeling of ease that we're looking for. Or that feeling you have after you might go for a massage. Or that feeling you have when you just sit down and put on your show and just chill out. Right? And for everybody, achieving that's going to be slightly different because everybody's head is kind of spinning in, at different momentums and in different ways.
Right. See, and it's funny you mentioned like those specific things. Like I rarely get a massage because I have to take the whole day off because I don't want to waste that experience because then I got to rush to something else. I can never sit down and actually watch a TV show because I'm doing a million other things while I'm doing it. And it's just funny that you mentioned those things because it's like I'm always, it's like my head's always running.
Yeah. So if I were you, I would do some journaling around ways to maybe try to find out to slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's super hard because it's such, the way society is programmed and runs and works, everybody's so overworked and going nonstop. And we're going in the opposite direction of where we need to go. We need to slow down, but everything is about being more efficient and speeding stuff up.
Right. And I feel like if I'm not, then, it's like, how do you tell somebody who's in debt to do a 3,000 piece puzzle? Like, that sounds like a great idea, but it's like, I'm self-employed. I got to work. If I'm not working today, I'm not making anything, and it's hard. It's that mindset. Then my mind is racing because I'm not working.
And that's a hard mindset to get over, right? Because the rational mind says, well, how am I going to make things happen if I'm not taking action?
Right, exactly.
But in reality, we live in a vibrational universe.
Yeah.
And you're not going to really get it until you experience it.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to experience it is by saying, okay, well, these next 2 weeks, I'm going to completely stop working on my business. I'm going to just chill the F out for these 2 weeks and just see what happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Wish I could give you a better answer than that.
No, I agree. I mean, I agree. I do. I just need to do it or to not do it.
Yeah. Good questions.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Judy.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that, working on the morning routine has really been beneficial. So thank you for recommending that last week.
Good.
And I didn't want to sign out without thanking you for having the call this week, and I look forward to next week. But I am from Cleveland, Ohio, and we are getting ready to win the World Series. So I am going to sign off.
Good. I hope you pre-paved the outcome of the ball game.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Janik, did you have a question? Let's see the question in the chat group.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're all talking about things to do in our routine and to incorporate, but I'm wondering what should we avoid? Like I know in Abraham's videos this week, it was talking about like how we shouldn't watch TV because then we're vibrating those vibrations and then it's bringing negative emotions and like, so is there things that you think we should avoid like that, or?
Avoid things that don't feel good, right? So if watching the Hillary Trump debate, drags down the way you feel, I mean, then stay away from it because it's not going to solve any of your direct problems, right? So generally just follow your flow of what feels good and what doesn't feel good. If you know that after doing something, it's just going to pull you down, then why bother? Now, something that I read from Robin Sharma this week that really had a big impact on me was he said that we're a culture addicted to distraction, right? Facebook being a distraction, right? So, I just got a new phone this week and I left Facebook off of it. I left the Messenger on, but I took Facebook off, right? Social media is such a distraction, right? Even TV to an extent is a distraction, right? So I suggest people to take some time and look at their days and see how much of their day is spent doing things that are, distracting, right? How many minutes or how many hours do you spend a day on Facebook and video games and all of these things, right? I have one of my clients now who plays 2 to 3 hours of video games every night, right? So I challenged him. I said, okay, for the next 6 weeks, ditch the video games, go out and here's some books, pick up one of these books and spend some time exercising and do a puzzle. Literally, I told him to do a puzzle, right? So look at how much time you're spent doing unproductive or distracting things and think of things that you could do instead.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. Thank you.
Isn't a puzzle a distraction?
If you're grounded and centered and enjoying what you're doing, then I would say no.
Okay.
Right? Nice one, though. Try to catch me. Any more questions? I don't see any more hands up. Oh, Angel, do you have a question? There we go.
Well, like her, I was going to say is a puzzle a distraction, but like I do artwork, painting, and sometimes like I lose myself in that for like 4 or 5 hours.
And that's perfect. That means you're in the flow.
Okay, it's not a distraction thing.
Absolutely not. No, a distraction would be something that at the end of the day you would think that maybe it was kind of a waste of your time a little bit.
Okay, I feel like a kid playing when I'm doing that.
And that's exactly where you want to be.
So good.
And that's exactly where you want to be.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any more questions? I don't see any more hands up. Wave if you've got a question. No, if not, I think we're done for tonight. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. If any more questions come up over the next day or two, post them in the Facebook group. Do you have a question, Dan? No? Or are you just waving by? Okay, so again, any questions, ask them in the Facebook group. We'll definitely talk about just being in the call next week, if that fits in my calendar. And again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and much appreciation for everyone who jumped in on the call. If you want to participate in future calls, suggest a call topic, or be notified of our next episode, be sure to subscribe at http://InTheVortex.Party, or come hang out in our InTheVortex.Party Facebook group. If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to leave a review or click the share button to share with others.